I, 28, have been best friends with Sarah, 27, since we were kids. We grew up together, went to the same schools, and shared countless memories. When Sarah got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Jake, I was thrilled for her. I couldn't wait to see my best friend walk down the aisle and start this new chapter of her life. The wedding planning was in full swing, and Sarah was stressed out trying to make everything perfect. I offered to help in any way I could, from running errands to helping with decorations. However, as the big day approached, I started to notice some red flags. First, conflict. The night before the wedding, we had a bachelorette party for Sarah. It was supposed to be a fun and memorable evening, but things took a turn for the worse when Jake showed up unannounced. Sarah's face fell when she saw him, and I could tell she was uncomfortable. Jake was always possessive and controlling, but this was a new low. As the night went on, Jake became increasingly drunk and aggressive. He accused Sarah of flirting with me and making a fool of him. It was clear that he was insecure and unable to handle Sarah having a good time with her friends. I tried to defuse the situation, but Jake was beyond reason. Things came to a head when Jake grabbed Sarah's arm and tried to drag her out of the party. She was in tears, pleading with him to let her go. I couldn't stand by and watch as my best friend was being mistreated. I knew I had to do something, even if it meant causing a scene. I made the difficult decision to call the police. I explained the situation to them, and they arrived at the venue within minutes. Jake was arrested for disorderly conduct and assault, and Sarah was finally safe from his toxic behavior. Escalation and fallout. The next day was the wedding, and Sarah was understandably upset about what had happened the night before. She confided in me that she was having doubts about marrying Jake, but felt trapped in the relationship. I urged her to reconsider, reminding her that she deserved to be with someone who respected and cherished her. Despite everything that had happened, Sarah went through with the wedding. It was a beautiful ceremony, but there was an underlying tension that couldn't be ignored. Jake seemed contrite and apologetic, but I knew that his behavior wouldn't change overnight. As the reception got underway, I noticed Jake sneaking drinks and becoming more and more aggressive. He started a fight with one of the guests, accusing them of flirting with Sarah. It was clear that he hadn't learned his lesson and was still unable to control his jealousy. I tried to intervene, but Jake started shouting and causing a scene. Sarah was mortified, and I could see the hurt and disappointment in her eyes. I knew that I had to step in once again, even if it meant ruining her wedding day. I called the police for the second time that weekend, explaining the situation to them. They arrived at the venue and arrested Jake for a second time, this time for public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Sarah was devastated, and I knew that our friendship would never be the same. As the dust settled and the guests left, Sarah was left to deal with the aftermath of her wedding being ruined. She was heartbroken and humiliated, and I couldn't help but feel responsible for what had happened. I had tried to protect my best friend, but in the process, I had caused irreparable damage to our friendship. The fallout was immediate and intense. Sarah refused to speak to me, blaming me for ruining her special day. She couldn't understand why I had called the police on Jake, even though it was clear that he was a danger to her. I tried to explain my actions, but she wouldn't listen. Update. In the weeks that followed, Sarah and Jake's marriage fell apart. The truth about Jake's behavior came to light, and it was clear that he had been emotionally and physically abusive towards Sarah for years. She realized that I had been trying to protect her all along, but the damage had already been done. Sarah and I eventually patched things up, but our friendship was never the same. The trust and bond we had shared for so many years had been shattered by the events of her wedding day. I couldn't help but wonder if I had done the right thing by calling the police, or if I had overstepped my boundaries as a friend. Am I the asshole? In the months that followed, the tension between Sarah and I remained palpable. She had filed for divorce from Jake and was going through a difficult legal battle to ensure her safety and independence. Despite my attempts to support her through this challenging time, there was always an underlying resentment towards me for my role in what had transpired at her wedding. I couldn't shake the feeling of guilt that lingered in the air whenever I was around Sarah. I had tried to do the right thing by calling the police on Jake, but the fallout had been far greater than I could have anticipated. Our once strong friendship was now strained, and I didn't know if it would ever fully recover. Sarah's family and some mutual friends had taken her side, painting me as the villain in the story. They couldn't understand why I had taken such drastic measures, even though they had witnessed Jake's erratic and abusive behavior firsthand. I found myself isolated and ostracized, wondering if I truly was the asshole in this situation. Despite the chaos and turmoil that followed Sarah's wedding, Jake continued to try and manipulate the narrative. He reached out to mutual acquaintances, painting himself as the victim in all of this. His lies and deceit only added to the already complicated mess that had come between Sarah and me. As time passed, Sarah and I drifted further apart. The once unbreakable bond we shared had been shattered beyond repair. The anger and bitterness on both sides continued to fester, leaving a rift that seemed impossible to bridge. I had lost my best friend, and she had lost her sense of trust in me. In the end, the fallout from my actions at Sarah's wedding had left a trail of destruction in its wake. What had started as a noble effort to protect my best friend had turned into a nightmare of betrayal and heartache. I was left wondering if I could have handled things differently, if there was a way to salvage our friendship amidst the wreckage. But as the dust settled and the wounds began to heal, one thing remained clear. The events of that fateful day had irreversibly changed the course of our lives. Sarah and I may never fully forgive each other for the pain and heartbreak we had caused, but one thing was certain. The scars of that day would forever be etched into our memories, a painful reminder of the consequences of calling the cops on my best friend's wedding.